In Spain, rescue workers continue to search for bodies in the wake of flooding that killed at least 158 people. Almost all of those deaths occurred in the eastern Valencia region. The coastal area of Murcia was also badly hit. Satellite images of Valencia before and after the floods show the extent of the damage. It's the worst flooding to hit Spain in more than 3 decades, with a year's worth of rain falling in a single day. Now, many of those affected are angry about what they say is an inadequate crisis response by authorities. Our correspondent reports from one of the worst affected communities.
1 week ago, Ofelia Cuartero and her family moved into their dream house in a suburb of Valencia. They had saved for it for decades, and then, in an instant, the flood destroyed it all.
When the official alarm went off, we immediately went upstairs. 5 minutes later, the water was up to our bellies, and all the furniture, the sofas and even the fridge were already floating.
Ofelia and her neighbours believe that the warnings came far too late. Thousands had already been trapped in their homes when the regional government sent out the notifications. And many tell us they are increasingly disappointed with the official help that has been provided to them since.
These security forces are reacting a little slowly. We are still cut off from the outside world, and there is quite a bit of chaos here.
They're giving out 1 bottle of water per person. Is that a joke?
Instead of working on solutions, they are blaming each other for the situation. It's always the same.
More and more people are now trying to help themselves. Some neighbours have organised a truck with a generator so that they can at least charge their mobile phones. They say it's also for their security, as reports of looting and break-ins are increasing.
Now that we have phones again, we've set up a group to coordinate with each other. There have already been some break-ins here.
Civil society organisations have called for protests against the poor crisis management. Here in Valencia's suburbs, many people are expected to join.
DW correspondent Jan-Philipp Scholz is in Valencia. He told me the latest on the flooding.
The operations had to be reduced to a minimum during the night, but they are starting again this morning, and they will continue throughout the day. Spanish Prime Minister Sanchez was in the affected region yesterday, and he promised help by sea, by land and by air, as he said. And shortly afterwards, the government announced 500 additional specialized soldiers that are going to be deployed here. They will arrive in the coming hours. But the truth is also that more than 48 hours after the beginning of the floods, the chances to find survivors are getting smaller and smaller by the hour. I saw it myself yesterday in some of the affected villages. The rescue missions are more and more about finding the bodies of dead people, and there are not a lot of survivors that are being found at the moment.
So many people have died, Jan-Philipp. Did something go wrong with Spain's weather warning system? Could this death toll have been avoided? What is the conversation there?
Well, I think we have to differentiate between different levels. There is the level of the meteorological warning systems. They seem to have worked quite well, also at an early point of time. But then there is also the responsibility of the regional and the national governments. They have to derive political action from this, of course, and their responsibility is to protect the people. And especially the regional government of Valencia has come under heavy criticism in the past 2 days. A lot of people say that their alert system that sends messages to all media and to mobile phones was activated way too late when thousands of people had already been trapped in their houses and in the affected areas. But the truth is also that, of course, it's very difficult to predict the exact locations because they are often not exactly where the torrential rainfalls hit, but due to this complex river system, they are often some kilometers away from the hotspots of the rain.
The damage is extensive. We've heard from people who've lost everything. Rebuilding is going to be a very huge task. Is the government going to give support in this regard?
I spoke to a representative of a big insurance company yesterday, and he said that the damages are really completely unprecedented in the history of Spain. And of course, only a fraction of this will be covered by insurances. And there also has to be a lot of rebuilding of public infrastructure, of roads, of bridges, everything. And this is, of course, where the government comes in. In a first statement, a government representative spoke about an emergency fund of 250,000 million euros. Of course, this can only be a tiny fraction of what is really going to be needed here. The Spanish government is also hoping for the European Union, and Commission President von der Leyen has already signaled the willingness to help Spain. We are really talking about billions and billions of euros and rebuilding efforts that will take months, probably years.
That's DW correspondent Jan-Philipp Scholz in Valencia for us. Thank you. Jeff da Costa is a climate scientist at the University of Reading in England. He told us more about the so-called cold drop weather phenomenon that triggered storms in the region.
Well, thanks for the question. So cold drop is a term used a lot in Spain and also in France for recurring weather fronts and weather phenomena, usually autumn, winter. Now, climate change, I think we're past the debate whether climate change is having, how much climate change influence is there to the storm. Fact is, we live in a changing climate. This has been well predicted. It's documented. World leaders have pledged to making the world a better and safer and more resilient place. We know that climate change, let's put it the other way around. If there was no climate change, this scale of event would be unlikely to happen in this type of frequency and intensity. So what we've seen now is really the recurring cold drop, as you said, but there's more moisture in the atmosphere because the atmosphere is warming through fossil fuel burning and climate change, which means warmer sea surface temperatures, warmer air temperatures, so the atmosphere can hold more water. So as you nicely described earlier, when a cold front does come in from the Atlantic over the Iberian Peninsula in this case, there is just so much more energy in the atmosphere and so much more potential for severe downpours, which we've seen this time around.
That was the climate scientist Jeff da Costa speaking there.